In the last few months, I've spoken to over 100 law firms looking to get qualified instructions on a consistent basis. And one of the biggest mistakes I see is not having a clear attribution system, i.e. not knowing where the leads that converted into sales came from and what made them convert. My name is Bradman and my company has helped firms grow by attributing thousands of pounds to the right marketing channels. And one of the biggest reasons firms struggle to scale isn't because their marketing doesn't work, it's because they don't actually know what part of their marketing is working. If we take advertising, most people only look at their cost per lead and their return on ad spend, and they make decisions based off of that. They turn ads on or off, they increase budgets, they switch agencies, or they blame the platform for not performing. But the real problem usually sits much earlier in the process. It sits in the data. Generally speaking, I separate marketing growth into two things: decision-making and execution. Execution is your ads and decision-making is your data. If your data is wrong, your decisions are wrong. And if your decisions are wrong, growth becomes unpredictable. So before we even start thinking about scaling advertising spend, we need to really understand attribution. Attribution is simply understanding where your revenue actually came from, not where does the platform say it came from, not what the last click says, but what actually influenced the instruction. So let's have a quick example. Let's say you're running ads on Meta and Meta showed you spent £10,000 and you've made £20,000 back. So that's a 2x return on investment. And you think that's okay, but it's not amazing. But imagine this scenario. Someone sees your ad, they click on it, they read your website, but they don't yet inquire. Then 3 days later, they Google your firm, they read your reviews, and then they call you. They then instruct you 2 weeks later. Now, Meta might not report that because of attribution windows, tracking limitations, and privacy changes. So the platform might show £20,000, when in reality, the campaign actually generated £40,000. Now imagine turning that ad off, not because it didn't work, but because you just didn't see the full picture. And this is how profitable campaigns get killed. In this case, you might have thought that your Google search is just doing well, but really it was your Meta advertising feeding your Google search. And here is where it gets even more interesting. Attribution doesn't just tell you which marketing channels are working and which ones to scale, it also tells you why individual ads didn't perform and do perform. For example, I might see 2 ads in an ad account. Ad A is generating leads at £10 per lead and brings in 30 leads. Ad B is generating leads at £30 per lead and brings in 8 leads. Now, most people would immediately just turn off ad B. But when we connect marketing to the CRM and when we track which leads actually turn into consultations and which consultations turn into instructions, we might actually see something different. We had this exact case with one of our clients where an ad was generating a lower cost per lead but not resulting in instructions, whereas the other ad was generating a higher cost per lead but was getting instructions. And now suddenly the more expensive ad is a lot more profitable because what really matters is your cost to acquire the customer, of course not the cost per lead. And without attribution, we would have turned off the best performer. This is why marketing and sales need to be aligned, because marketing generates the attention, but then sales turn that attention into revenue. But if you don't connect the two properly, you don't actually know what's working. So if you haven't set up a system to track the source of your leads properly, and if your team isn't clearly noting down the outcomes within your pipeline, you are just guessing, and guessing doesn't scale. Now, the reason this matters even more in 2026 is because tracking has changed. Platforms have shorter attribution windows, and now people take a lot longer to make sales decisions because there's less trust in the market generally speaking, and also there's a lot more competition and a lot more options to choose from. So high-value legal work often has longer sales cycles. Someone might inquire today, but they might not instruct for 10 days, 14 days, or even 30 days. So if you're only looking at where the lead interacted with you last and not where they interacted with you first, you're misrepresenting the data, which means misrepresenting your decision making. So if I was working with a new firm from scratch, here's what I would do before increasing any marketing spend. I'd make sure that every lead goes into a proper CRM so we can track clearly what leads are converted into instructions, and then we can tag that back to its original marketing source. I'd also separate lead quality from lead volume, and I'd review the consultation notes and call recordings to understand what marketing is driving the best quality leads. Then, and only then, would I start making scaling decisions and decide which marketing and which ads to actually increase. Because once you can clearly see which ads generate qualified inquiries, which campaigns produce high-value cases, and which leads never convert, you can optimize to suit. When attribution is clear, the decision-making becomes so much more simpler, and you can just scale what is working, and whatever isn't working, you can just leave it alone. This is how you go from inconsistent marketing to predictable growth. If you want to understand how we improve attribution and use it to determine which ads to turn off and which ads to scale, and how to generate better results for your firm, you can watch this video here. Alternatively, if you'd like to have a chat with our team, we break down the exact marketing and tracking strategy that we would put in for your firm. You can click the link in the description below to have a chat with one of our team members.